And we are live. We are so live. I'm not really even sure that everybody is fully. Let me just go ahead and get my mic situated. I'm not really even sure that everybody's even ready. I know I'm not because I had my mic all the way over there on the other side of the desk. It's been a Monday. It's been a clear Monday. I'm not entirely certain if I'm like even being completely clear enough when I say you ever had a Monday that from the moment that you get up, and I mean from the moment you get up to the moment that your head hits the pillow, that you're just completely ready for Tuesday to just be Monday all over, like to just try to hopefully start the week over again, but just have like one more day. That's the way I felt today. But we're here and it is week zero time. And not only is it week zero time, but it's catching up with coach time. And something that I really, really want to say is, an emphatic thank you. Thank you to those of you that are not only here with us live, but those of you that will watch us on delay. We certainly do not discriminate against our delay listeners. But thank you for those of you that are here always. Big let's go from Leighton. Big here we go from my boy Bo. Certainly excited to have you all here tonight. Jam-packed episode. Kind of a lot of things that we want to get to, but most importantly, we want to make sure that we do not skip over the fact that we talk about the elephant in the room. We'll see what we mean there in just a minute. We got football this Saturday, and that helps any Monday, says Imagine. And you know what? That's absolutely right. It's 100% absolutely right. Where do we even want to begin other than where are we checking out the podcast from tonight? We are certainly here at the crib. As you can see, a couple of different renditions have been made here in this room, but there are a couple of updates coming. You'll see what we mean. Likely by the time we go live on our RNG live show coming this Thursday, our typical scheduled stream there this Thursday afternoon around 6 or so. But tonight, this is obviously an episode I'm writing solo. Russo's still here and well, and he's likely listening in, probably texting in right now, making sure that everything's going smooth on the comms here. But we have a lot to get to, and I don't want to take up any more time talking about it. So let's get right to it. We have college football this week, and that's a really, really exciting thing. The first thing that I think we ought to get to is, what are you going to do for week zero college football? Are you going to be doing other stuff and just, kind of having it on in the background? Are you a fan of the teams playing? Are you going to be betting on any of the games that are going to be happening? Or are you going to be completely captivated and locked in for the entirety of the time? Because I know that I will be participating in the latter of those options. We've got Iowa State, Kansas State kicking us off at 11 a.m. Central, for those of you that are in the center of the good old US of A. And they got a couple of other games. I'm not really too enamored as much with the Sam Houston Western Kentucky as, some people have been on Twitter. There are some degenerates that are out on the 10-point spread for Western Kentucky. And if you're betting Western Kentucky football in week zero, then you're an absolute legend and a GOAT. The two other games that we will be watching, we will be tuned in to Stanford and Hawaii. I just want to see Andrew Luck on the sideline. And I will be tuned in for Fresno State and Kansas. I'm not entirely sure that I'm ready to take the bold step of being on the Kansas bandwagon for the year. There are certainly a few folks out in the people streets, we will call them, that are going to be locked in on their over for the season. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. But Kansas got a very generous donation here lately to their athletics program, and we are incredibly excited for them to be able to have that. We are a generous by nature podcast. I am all for the and I told myself I wasn't going to spend long on talking about this, but I kind of want to. We are of the belief that if you've got donors that want to give your program money, then by all means, you have all the, like, if you've got somebody willing to give you bands, then God bless you. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, we come from a point in the country where we're We're kind of begging for the extra donations every now and again. But as it relates to Kansas, they are certainly not. They are set up for life. Can we get a decimal on that Kansas donation? Let's see. Get y'all that answer real quick. 300 million. $300 million. And don't be alarmed by me looking up. I have a little second setup with a bigger display behind you. So don't be, I'm not looking out into the ether. At least not yet. But the drinks will be flowing next weekend. You can assure that for week 1 of college football. But getting right into the week 0 matchups, I don't want to spend too much time on this one just because we obviously are going to be kind of breaking this down a little bit from as Coach Kent Murphy would say, a fundamental standpoint here this Thursday. But I do want to just briefly look over the fact that we do have a ranked game, Iowa State and Kansas State, 22-17. And that is going to be at Dublin, if I'm not mistaken. Now, however, I will not want to lead you too far astray. But remember last year, we had kind of a shock to the system, some might say, with the Dublin week 0 game last year, as I want to tell you, we kind of all lost a little bit of money. And again, we are certainly going to be tuned into the teams that could maybe win us some money. So we are going to be very, very gentle on who it is that we put all of our cards in on the table to do that, because I can assure you, I lost money week 0 of college football last year and ruined a few season parlays by doing so. But that's okay, because we're going to speed right along. And look, it's at 3. Kansas State is at a 3-point spread. I'm not saying to lay anything on that. If anything, maybe lay the over. I don't know how much defense is going to get played in this game, but the over at 49.5, we'll see about it. A lot of the commonality here is to bet the under, given all the penalties and the pre-snap this and what. I mean, so you would bet the under in a score. Rather in a game, but something tells me they might want to show up and show out for the Irish Nation over there in Dublin. So we'll certainly preview that one as we get down the get down the street here on this Thursday afternoon. But I want to get into a couple of different things, and this is going to be like our fall intel segment. All throughout, let me set the stage. All throughout the fall here, this is the time of year where you and I actually was texting one of my friends this, who I'm certain is going to be texting me here shortly. This is the point in the preseason, in the off season, that some might say that you convince yourself that the things about your team that are bad don't exist, and you give yourself hopeful optimism as to why your team is going to win. And for those of you that cheer for especially Southeastern Conference football teams, and Big Ten does a really good job of this too, but not as much in the ACC and the Big 12, or even what's left of the Pac-12. But there is a lot of media to be put out, and I mean a lot. There are. There's the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Auburns, South Carolina's got a lot to talk about right now. Oklahoma is super excited about Moneyline Mateer. Like the Southeastern Conference does a really, really good job of having a lot of media coverage and a lot of media outlets to be able to have constant information. You should not be ever lacking as it relates to looking for information. There should be somewhere for you to go, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's there's always something to watch. And so our sincere hope is that you would add us to that billing. Certainly, again, whether you want to join us live or watch us on delay, if you like, Russo's individual streams, the best, or the catching up with coaches, or if you like us when we collaborate, anything and everything is certainly helpful and great. We're going to still continue to put the content out. But this is the point in the season where you'll see a lot of fans come out and be a little bit more vocal, if I may say so myself. And what I mean by that is this is where you start to put aside all the things that don't matter, that you think don't matter. For example, if you're an Auburn fan, all of a sudden we should trust in the process. This is an offensive powerhouse. We've got Eric Singleton. We're just going to throw him the ball, throw it up, and we're going to score touchdowns. There's no reason why we can't get 9 wins. And then you get to the first game, and what if you're Auburn and you lose to Baylor, right? Now all of a sudden you're in full panic mode because you excited yourself all throughout June and July and now August, and you got SEC media days, and now you've got the camp videos for those of you that allow the media to practice, and you've got videos. Oh my God, he looks so fast, and then he's putting pads on him. Our D line's creating pressure, and so it's just it's just time for football. Like, as a fan, you are convincing yourself that the holes in your team don't exist, and you have hopeful optimism, and that is what it is. For example, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm pretty sure he's referring to Moneyline Mateer. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people that are like Imagine that also agree with Oklahoma being for real. And there's a lot of people that are picking Oklahoma as it relates to the Sooner Nation to upset LSU. And it's predicted an upset as of right now. We'll see as we get down the stretch of the season. But there's a lot of people predicting Oklahoma to win that game in Norman at the end of the season, which we'll get to maybe here, whether it's later tonight or maybe later on this week, as to why a loss at that point in the season for LSU could either be the worst possible thing ever or maybe a blessing in disguise. There's a lot of hopeful optimism. It is what it is. That's the best way I can explain it. And so a couple of different teams that I wanted to break down tonight as it relates to what we're talking about here in certain situations with the defensive side of the football, the offensive side of the football, holes that might exist that you might think don't or shouldn't. And I just want to bring up, and I know there's a lot of LSU fans in the chat, but I want to get to Georgia first, if I may. Is that cool with everybody here? that we talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm with you on the Kirby Smart thing. We've talked about this. Russo and I have talked about this literally no less than 10 times in our spare time. I think the over on Georgia's season total is the way to go. I currently think that if you're to take for granted what Kirby Smart has done, then you are trying to have a gotcha statement. I'm gonna have the clickbait opinion. We're not really in the business of doing that. You're either gonna watch our media or you're not. Like, you're either gonna watch the content and like it and appreciate it or you're not. We're certainly not doing it for clicks. I can assure you that Russo's not. Russo is very much a candid fella in most regards. And I try to be as unbiased as I possibly can. But Gunnar Stockton has not really, and we're seeing this with Texas too. Gunnar Stockton has a lot on his plate, and we're kind of just expecting him to just take this team and we're going to be able to run the football and go over the top of them whenever we've got a loaded box. And it's just this Georgia play defense and keep us close, and we're going to out athlete you in the fourth quarter whenever we're just gonna, all right, now it's time to win. Like, and that's what Georgia does. And that's what Georgia has done in different, whether it's the Kentuckys of the world or I'm trying to think of another one that you were ready for them to lose and they didn't. Georgia Tech's a really good one. I mean, they were literally beat by Georgia Tech the entire game last year. And as it pertains to the whole ecology of a loss, like, the opponent continuing to punch you in the mouth and punch you in the mouth and it just never stopped. And we're sitting here at the end of the third and we're like, should we put money on Georgia Tech? Like, are they going to, like, Georgia was literally favored to cover by several points until overtime started, and it was going back and forth. So Georgia's got a lot to prove, but I think that they're going to be fine. I think they've got talent at every position that they could have talent at, and it's just these freak shows waiting in the wings. I tend to be a little bit more optimistic on Gunnar Stockton than maybe some of our fellow YouTubers. There's been a little bit of scuttlebutt about what is Georgia really? If you're ever going to bet them to go 9-3, this is the year to do it. I'm having a really hard time finding 3 losses on their schedule. I have to. And I said this with Saban a couple of years ago in Bama. I have to see Georgia lose 3 games in a season before I predict them to do so. Last year, we did it with Alabama and said that this would be the year for them to do it, considering it's the first year under Kalen DeBoer. if you're going to have a team that is going to lose 3 times, this feels like the team to do it. However, what we did not think would happen would be that one of the 3 losses would come by the hands of Vanderbilt. So that was not on the bingo card. And truthfully, I would be remiss to tell you that I saw that coming. Like Russo, I'm pretty sure Russo had a bet that day. And typically, and I'll give you an aside, really briefly for those of you that care. On any given like Saturday, sometimes even Friday night, my night and then entry into the next day goes a little bit something like this. I've got a notebook that looks just like this. I've got a notebook that looks just like this, and it's filled with things to talk about, things that I want to look for in the game. I'll check them off usually as the things happen, as long as I'm not going to a football game. Obviously, you guys know that I live in Louisiana, and I attend LSU football games that are home, and I have not really divvied away from that. Again, that does not keep me from being honest as it pertains to LSU. I think most of you know that. But at some point during the day, there's obviously food, there's drinking, there's like not together drinking and driving. Of course not. I would never do that. But you're driving to the stadium and then you're getting to a football tailgate somewhere around. And let's just say the games are going to happen and start kicking off at like, noon, like the big noon kickoff of Big Ten games. Right around 10:15 a.m., I'll get a text about Russo's lay for the day. And he'll have this list of teams, and it'll be like sometimes 3 or 4, sometimes 6, 7. And when we had player props, it was even deeper than that. And it was awesome. And Russo sends out this elaborate parlay for the day. And I think it was literally just wins and losses, no covers, no, season total. I mean, it was wins and losses. And Vanderbilt being the one to crap on that parlay was literally one of the most hilarious conversations I've ever had on a Sunday. Because I'd have to go back in the text, which, obviously is a lot. I'd have to go back into the text and find you how he reacted to it. It was literally as if there was some sort of like sick joke going on. Like it was, and the whole stadium is going berserk. Like everyone around you is going absolutely insane. Like we literally can't believe that Diego Pavia is about to beat Alabama. And so obviously Twitter is having a field show with this, and it ended up not being funny because they ended up coming into Tiger Stadium and whipping your behind from here to Kingdom Come. So it ended up not even being like funny for that long, but it was funny for the time being. But if you're an LSU fan and if you're an SEC fan and if you had win totals and if you had like parlays for that day, it was funny because it's like if anything was going to break this, clearly it wasn't going to be that one. But anyway, that's beside the point. Getting back to what we were talking about with some of these things, I tend to agree that there is a lot to prove from Georgia, but I think that they will be fine. And I also, a lot of you are probably not going to like hearing this, but I also think Alabama will be fine as well. I know that there's obviously some news about Jam Miller having a quote upper body injury. They have too many starters returning on defense. They have too good of an offensive line. If Ty Simpson can just give you something, that is good enough to me for them to win 8 and 9. And if they're just better than we think that they are by even a little bit, to me, that's good enough for maybe even 10. Like I don't think people are prepared for LSU, for Alabama to be good under Kalen DeBoer. We're not really ready for that conversation yet, as it pertains to a lot of fans that are not fans of Alabama. But I do think that they are going to be good. You may not have Jalen Milroe, but you will see this be different. Like you will see, like if you're Alabama, you're thinking about you having your Garrett Nussmeier moment. Your guy that sat there, waited in the wings. He's waited his time to play. Ty Simpson's ready to rock and roll. Do we have some hiccups along the way because this is his first time ever starting? Yes, of course. But they're also really, really excited about what there can be over there at Tuscaloosa. And I think they have reason to be excited. I think they've got playmakers. They've obviously got Ryan Williams, and that's a freak show. We're now going to get to hear about him being 18 years old. I don't know if you heard that or not, but he was only 17 last year. Obviously, you heard that. I think that it's almost as if I would be really, really shocked if they weren't a as good as a team as they were last year in some facets. I think that, again, that defense returning is going to provide them a little bit of extra cushion to maybe, kind of get their feet under them on the offensive side of the football. And so for those reasons, I'm a little bit higher on Alabama than the typical is. And I think when they were voted third in the SEC by the media, I think that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of you that thought that maybe LSU should get that. They went into Tiger Stadium and beat you, I mean, wire to wire. So there was no, to me, they get the benefit of the doubt for that reason. Maybe if LSU retains a little bit of that talent on the offensive line, maybe that goes a little bit differently, but Alabama is going to get those votes regardless. And last but certainly not least, before we get into your home team here at the crib, I do want to talk just a brief moment about Texas. And I don't want to go too deep on this one, pause, because I know obviously they play next week and they're going to be the big game next week. I know there's a game at Clemson. I'm aware of that. Ohio State in Texas is a bigger football game than LSU and Clemson. That is an absolute fact. Are we ready to have the conversation that Arch Manning is as good as advertised, or even if he's not, he's still going to be good enough to get them where they want to go? Like it feels like there's a lot of people that are really hoping that he's not. I am not one of those people. I actually would really like to see the kid do well because I think that it's good for college football if the kid comes out and he's good. That young man has waited his turn. He's handled the media fine. He's handled the pressure fine. I think he's done everything that you would want your starting quarterback to do. He's not really coming out with too many statements to the contrary. I mean, he's literally just shutting up and doing his job. And they named Ohio State. If you didn't see this today, James Day comes out and names Julian Sayin the starting quarterback the starting quarterback for game one next week, that they're going to play at the Shoe, and they're going to have like that Texas defensive front across the 50 from him at some point. Like you're going to stare into the eyes of some pissed off, very talented Texas defensive linemen that are ready to get their hands on a freshman quarterback. And I think they're going to attack the pass. I think they're going to, if you're going to see Texas attack, and I mean like sending some blitzes, it feels like this would be a game to try to do it. I think they've got the horses to do it. I am like Colin Simmons is going to have something to say about how that game finishes up in the fourth quarter. It feels like that to me. I'm not entirely ready to predict a winner and to pick one each side of that, but man, it's really hard to go on the road and win, especially in week one. LSU knows how that goes. And if you're an LSU fan, you're going to find out what it's like to go on the literal road to get that done. And so Texas and Ohio State, every bit as big and bigger than the Clemson LSU game. So really, really excited to see how that goes and how me and Russo feel about it, going into obviously the end of this week. And then this time next week, guys, we're talking about week one. Like we have college football games that matter this weekend. Think about that for a second. And this time next week, it is week one. We've made it. Like we're this close. Which leads me into what I want to talk about next. Get a drink here. Okay. Everybody just take one deep breath together. Okay, good. Can we all calm down? I'm talking to you, LSU fans. Can we calm down? Can we go one day Can we just go one day without there being some sort of dramatic, emphatic text message that hits my phone that the sky is falling, the world is ending, our team's gonna suck? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, I, if you're not catching on to what I'm talking about, there was a couple of tidbits that some might say that came out of the practice from today. And it's that the person that we spent a good bit of time talking about last week, the freshman Carius Kern, got run at right tackle today. And now all of a sudden people think that we don't know who our starters on the offensive line are going to be. We're not ready to play Clemson. We're going to lose by 2 scores. Like, what are we, guys? You may lose by 2 scores when you go and play Clemson. It has nothing to do with you being a bad football team. It has everything to do with you not being prepared in week 1 and you going on the road to play maybe the best defensive front that you're going to face all season outside of maybe Florida, which we will break down in that week, and I can't wait for that. I have several pages of notes on that. But guys, this game is going to be won based on who can run the football. Okay? So I understand your desire as an LSU fan and a constant pessimist to want to assume that you will not be able to run the football. But in reality, do you think that some of these things can maybe be ironed out on the actual gridiron? Like, maybe they don't have it together in the first quarter. Maybe they learn as the second quarter goes along, and maybe they figure it out, and you keep leaning on that defensive front, and you keep leaning on that defensive front. And then all of a sudden, in about the third quarter, you bust a run, and then maybe a second one, and then you go deep, pause, and you score. And now all of a sudden you're cooking with something. Let me remind you, for those of you that forget, because a lot of the people that watched the football game last year in week 1 with LSU and USC, you're blinded by how the game ended that you forget what happened in the middle. Regardless of you coming down with a touchdown in the corner of the end zone that doesn't go for 7, regardless of you yet again getting stopped inside the 5-yard line and not scoring on your opening drive, regardless of you not being able to stop them at the end of the game. Does anybody remember what John Emery was doing to that defense before you just went away from him? Like, does anybody remember that? Like, John Emery would have been your thunder to the lightning as it relates to what Caden Durham gave you if he doesn't get hurt. John Emery, out of nowhere. First of all, people that have watched John Emery play football did not know that he had grown his hair out. If you hadn't been watching practice video, you wouldn't have known that John Emery had long hair, like he had the dreads, and people were not, they were like, who is that? And he had a different number. Remember that? How he came out against game 1 in the different number and nobody knew who that was for about 3 minutes until you looked at the depth chart on your phone and realized that it was John freaking Emery. Bruh, if John Emery doesn't, if he continues to do that, the game is won. I sincerely believe that you had the metric of running the football there and it just dissipated. And again, the same can be said for you going away from consistently running the ball in different games last year and you just abandoned the run. This game at Clemson is going to be decided on who can run the football. Okay. Clemson may very well stop you the first couple of times that you try to run the ball. But if you refuse to try a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time and a sixth time and a seventh time and an eighth time, then you're obviously going to become one-dimensional and you're going to make Garrett's job that much harder, and you're going to ask him to press, and then you're going to put him in disadvantageous positions and put the ball in the harm's way because you're afraid to run the football. So with this offensive line kerfuffle that we're dealing with right now, because Brian Kelly goes out and gives the freshman a run at right tackle, all of a sudden we think that we don't know who's going to play on the offensive line. Guys, need I remind you, we have literally seen 15 billion and 3/4 videos of this offensive line unit running with the same 5 left to right. And now all of a sudden that he comes to the press conference at the end of last week and he says, literally, and I quote, I do not want to tone down the competitiveness. I want to keep up. I want to keep people involved. Like I want them to feel like they need to still work for something. That is what football is about. You want the highly touted freshman that can run a 4.8 and do backflips at 315 pounds. You want to think that guy is going to take your job because it makes you work that much harder. Take it for example, you're in sales. You find out that the Florida rep all of a sudden is at 103% and he's reaching his goals and you're at 98. All of a sudden, I want to be at 103.1. That's just how competitive atmosphere goes. And so, is it possible that you can put Carius Kern in the starting line at the starting offensive line to start the season? Yeah, absolutely you could. This just in. You may still even see him play in the game even if he doesn't start, y'all. Like this kid is ready to roll. He's ready to roll based on what everybody else that knows more about college football says. They say this kid's ready to roll. So it really wouldn't shock me to see him play. I don't think he starts. And I also don't necessarily know that I'd put him at tackle. But that's just me. I obviously never played offensive line, so I wouldn't be the one to take that opinion from. But I think put him in at guard. To me, he looks like the type of road grader guard that you want to put in there, someone mean, nasty, and ready to rock. But Brian Kelly and Brad Davis and Joe Sloan and everybody else that's in that Alex Adkins, whoever else is in that offensive play calling room thinks that Carius Kern needs to get as much run at every position as possible. He's likely your sixth man. Your swing man, maybe. You're also getting Paul Mubenga getting run at left guard. Okay, he played there half the season because of an injury last year. It would shock me if he weren't getting go at first team reps right now. That does not mean that all of a sudden DJ Chester is not going to be the first lineman that you see. But if you see DJ Chester struggling and he can't produce the run and you're trying to run counter and he's not where he's supposed to be, all of a sudden you put Paul Mubenga in and he's where he's supposed to be and we're getting an extra 2 yards. Okay, let Paul run. We revisit the evaluation for next week going in the La Tech. This is what freaks me out, is that people forget, like, from year to year that we are literally used to seeing this. Do we not remember how many times you've had competitive depth on your line, defensive or offensive? It's regular to do that. So everyone, calm down. You're fine. It's going to be okay. And again, you may still lose the game. We're not ready to really predict a winner. I think I've kind of been clear on where I'll likely land as it pertains to that game. It's going to be who can run the football, y'all. And Brian Kelly's trying to find out who is the five that's going to give me the best chance to run the football and protect Garrett so we can push the ball down the field. That is literally it. But you can't do that unless you give these kids a look. Now, granted, I'm not saying you give the third and fourth guy at depth a run at first team snaps. That's not reality. But he is telling you that there is competitive depth there, and he does think that there are other people, Cohen Eccles included, that can be included in the starting five and move some folks. And that's really all that it means. To me, DJ Chester was the number one graded interior offensive lineman in his recruiting class. He should be ready to go. If he is not ready to go at this point, then you need to give a look to somebody else, and you need to figure out where you could put him if it's in a starting role. He's obviously your backup center. We all know that. He played all last year and frankly struggled a lot of the times. There were some moments where you kind of thought that he was putting it together, and it got a little bit better as the season went along, but the pre-snap penalties, it was just too much. And everything that we've been hearing out of the LSU's camp is that Braylon Moore has just been a stonewall. He has been absolutely what they wanted as they need him to be, a transfer starting center. Just go in there, get the ball to Garrett, be able to evaluate what is happening, give good notes to the quarterback, call out fronts. He's doing all of that. There has been no reason to assume that Weston Davis and Tyree Adams are not going to be your tackles. Tyree Adams has not even been barely discussed at all at left tackle, except for when they give Carius Kern run at left tackle and give him some snaps. So now all of a sudden you've got Josh Thompson and DJ Chester getting competitive snaps with other folks, and now people are losing their minds. Guys, relax. It's going to be fine. However, on the other side of the football, and I don't want to go too far into the episode without talking about this, but it's like that. It's kind of it's we should know what to expect with this defense, right? Like when I say they're going to be better, what does that mean? Does that mean do I mean like 4 or 5 spots better, or do I mean like 25, 30 spots better? They need it to be 25 or 30 spots better. If your offense is going to take a step back, and maybe it will. Maybe you do have more weapons. That I know for a fact on the offensive side of the football. You have more weapons totally than you did last year. And I say weapons as in you had Mason Taylor, who is absolutely freaking awesome. Kyron Lacy, rest in peace, was a good receiver. I think that you have you had Aaron Anderson that broke out, of course. I think that you've got a deeper list of weapons at receiver, at tight end. You've also got a little bit of different dynamic with running back. We'll see what Caleb Jackson can give you. But as it pertains to the defensive side of the football, we should expect them to be better. And if they're just that at one position, and I mean at one position, it's going to go really well for you if you're LSU on the defensive side of the football. That doesn't necessarily give you and grant you 10 wins. But if you can just be better at safety, guys, there were times last year as an LSU fan where we're watching the game, and I'll just give you an example. I have my notebook. Okay. I have my notebook in hand and I'm writing down positive plays, negative plays, who made it, star by the exciting names, big X's by the people that are stressing me out each play. The amount of red X's by safeties last year are actually scary. Like it is haunting to think about how bad you were at safety. You now bring in Marcus Cooley and AJ Halsey, who absolutely, without a doubt, 100% does not matter how their floor of how bad they are. It is almost impossible for you to be as bad as you were last year at safety. It is literally almost impossible. I do not think that there is a world. I do not think there is a world where we were prepared for how bad you were at safety last year. Sage Ryan leaves. He goes to Ole Miss. I think that's incredibly funny to see what's going to happen with that. Jordan Gilbert moves down into a star role. As we said last week, he's kind of competing with a couple of, freshmen and redshirt sophomores in that position. And you bring in Marcus Cooley and AJ Halsey, and then you also have Deshaun Spears, and you still have Javian Toviano that are back there looking to get some run. And it feels like you've kind of settled there a bit. AJ Halsey is a head knocker. I've already said it before. That dude is going to come down like a bat out of hell, and he's looking to put a face mask in people's chest and run right through you. That's just how he is, and that's exactly what you need. So Marcus Cooley, which by the way, I would like to take a brief aside and just say shout out to Marcus Cooley, who, if you didn't see this week, was all over social media for stopping on the side of the road. He's leaving the football ops. He stops on the side of the road to help a mom and her kids change a spare tire. The mom takes a selfie with him. He was super helpful, super sweet, super nice. Just a great example of what you would want in a person and to a part of your program. Like, that is exactly what I want to cheer for in a kid to play. So if his play can just follow that, easy kid to cheer for. So you've got a young man that has a good head on his shoulders, and at the floor of that, I can cheer for that. Remove yourself from that. I also need you to be a good center fielder. if you don't mind. And I think that he can be that. I think that he was that at NC State. He entered the transfer portal and had a whole lot of excited teams trying to get him. And he lands up here in Baton Rouge. And so now what are you going to do with it? So I think a mixture between him and AJ Halsey and then you will likely see Deshaun Spears in that mix too. I think they're very, very high on what that young man can be out of the Denham Springs area, and I also think that you're going to be better at corner too. Last year it seemed as though you kind of had games where you were better, and then some games where you just had nothing. I think you've got a little bit more depth there, and not only depth just to say that you've got warm bodies to play corner. You don't need Sage Ryan to come down and play corner anymore. You have like corners, like 5-star DJ Pickett right now, who would be starting for almost any team in the country outside of maybe a couple, or a handful, even game one. And he's fighting right now to get those first team reps. And again, I do think that it will be a mix of the 4-5. He has said that they are going to run, Brian Kelly, as I say, he is going to run out 4 or 5 corners. Corey Raymond is not afraid to roll them. He's done it. He's done it his entire career. I think you give a guy a couple of plays off, you roll somebody else in, you get different looks, different receivers, matchups. I mean, you're going to have bodies. I think the expectation is that the defense is supposed to be better, and you have just more quality depth position by position. Harold Perkins comes off of injury. Whit Weeks comes off of injury. Do you get excited about what you've been getting in fall camp with Bernard Gooden at the nose? Like defensive tackle is another one. I mean, if you can call, like, there is literally nothing better than getting pressure from the middle. So this team has a lot of question marks, but they also have a whole lot of exciting points that you should, as a fan, be really excited to watch. And again, even if you lose week 1 to Clemson, it is not the end of the world. You have literally watched them lose in week 1 now for years. And under Brian Kelly, you've watched them do it for 3 years, and you have still found reasons at week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and even 10 to be incredibly optimistic about what this team can do at the end of the season. So I am incredibly excited to see what we know and what we don't know. Like, how right were we? How wrong were we? And only time will tell. I just realized Ben said he was drinking the Kool-Aid and not just a random comment about drinking Kool-Aid. Yes, clearly that means he was on board and not just randomly drinking Kool-Aid. However, Kool-Aid is absolutely fantastic. My favorite is grape. Something else that I just remember. This is an aside, but I was at work last week. Does anybody else remember? And we're not sponsored by them, so we're not being paid to say this. Does anybody else remember Propel? Like, and how big of a deal that was? And now there's 9,000 different, like, sugar-free water flavors. I mean, dude, Propel used to go hard in the paint. Oh, we've got some grape fans in the chat. Bo says grape absolutely freaking rules. Grape does rule, dude. But also, grape pre-workout is the best flavor for a pre-workout. Fight me. Tyler said strawberry, orange, banana, Crystal Light, or bust. I'm a big sugar-free advocate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't, if it's too sugary, man, it just pisses me off. The white grape carbonated waters back in the day used to go crazy. Facts, man. Facts. You know what else? So these two things we talked about. We were talking about things that were coming back in the 90s. That were coming back from the 90s and early 2000s, because y'all know all that's back, But do y'all remember Go-Gurt? I know this is so off topic. I had no idea how we even got here, but bro, some of the stuff back in the Gap used to really hit a little bit different. Crystallized sugar free. Are all of them sugar free? Because sometimes okay, so sometimes they are sugar free, but like some of them still are flavored with like the artificial sweeteners and whatnot, and it gets to be a little bit too strong. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm a big advocate for I mean, really anything that's not too sweet. Just a little bit of adult beverage and water, a little bit of a little clear liquor and water, little flavor there. They can definitely be sweet sometimes. 100% facts. Over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be incredibly dialed in to the week 1 matchups, whether it's drinks that you're going to have beforehand like you just talked about, or whether it's going to be the food that you're serving up, where y'all watching the game from. Maybe even if we're available to do it, maybe even a post game live stream maybe the following day. There's a lot of exciting things, but we certainly need your feedback on all of them, so we're super excited to be able to bring that forward to you. And Russo and I have talked about this again, so we're blue in the face. We just love to do this, man. We love it. We absolutely love the feedback. We love, kind of getting back and forth with you guys on, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what's, not working. We're still kind of in the infancy phases with some of it, but as it pertains to the show in itself, the catching up with Coach has always been super fun. I very much like our collaborated shows. And some of the betting angles that we've got for this year are a little bit different and off the beaten path. So definitely stay abreast, bro. Like stay ready and stay vigilant as it relates to the apps. We're not going to be, putting, mortgage payments on things, but we are going to have some pretty fun ones this year, with a couple of different angles, a little bit deeper dive into some things calculated from what worked last year and maybe what didn't. There was a few games last year that kind of got away from us. Maybe we sort of should have middled rather than didn't. But all of that in time to come. But that puts a button on our episode for tonight, guys. I wanted to come on here and talk about a few things that were on my mind as it pertained to obviously the LSU intel that we're hearing with some of the practices. The media will get availability tomorrow. I believe BK is going to go to the podium again. And then I believe there's going to be media attending the scrimmage this Saturday, which is really exciting. We usually don't. I mean, they're prepping for Clemson now. I mean, you went through, you had some stuff go on today as normal, with practice, but they are like, you've got scout team going, you've got folks wearing different color jerseys, different numbers. I mean, it is all Clemson prep. Or if you're, like I said, if you're an Auburn fan, it's all Baylor prep. Like you're in game prep now. You're not waiting for next week. It's happening right now, especially if you're not playing week 0. Maybe in the near future, LSU will gift us with a week 0 game with somebody that's hopefully an exciting opponent, but maybe not ranked at their house for the first game of the year. But wishful thinking and old habits, they certainly do die hard. But again, that puts a button on our episode. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Give us some feedback in the comment section. And for those of you that watch us on delay, certainly give us a DM over there on Twitter if you're on the social spaces, if you're on the Facebook, or even the upcoming TikTok. Even the TikTok page is, like, Russo's been harping on this hard, y'all. Sup, money? How we feeling, baby? He's trying to get me blushing here at the end, dude. Trying to bring me down here. Appreciate that, Bo. Great episode. Thank you for tuning in. Russo's been really on my behind about this TikTok thing, and I really think that it's got some runway. So super excited for all that's to come. But that's our episode for tonight. Super excited to have you guys all here tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in. I will catch you guys in the next one. Incredibly ready for just football, man. Like it's time. We need it. So with that, we'll catch y'all in the next one. See y'all this Thursday. Peace.